baby.
So amazing. Okay, well, now that we have so many amazing, so far I see 40 participants. That's so awesome. Claire, are you able to screen share? Because I don't hold up those slides.
Yes, I can.
Okay. And we'll kind of get started. We thought that we would do kind of some like fun interaction stuff too, kind of in between our time with Dr. Blair, just to get some more engagement amongst everyone going. So once that works, Claire. Okay. Oh, are you sharing that with me? Or are you just opening it? Okay. So awesome. So we are gonna go ahead, and of course, those of you that have joined us beforehand, we are so grateful for industry partners who have said that they are willing to continue to support BDFW educational events. And I think that this has been a, hey Claire, maybe can you mute other people? Sorry. I think this has been a really exciting test case to see if this works, and I am just really thrilled for the amount of people that we've been able to serve during this 3-month or this 3-week series. So I'm going to just name each company. They're going to say hi, and they're just going to tell you like one sentence about what kind of products they have in case you do want to engage with them in the comments. Kind of a reminder, they're going to put a comment in the comments to reach out to you. They can't reach out to you personally, just like at an event. But if you want to engage or you have any questions about what they do, service, pipeline, anything, the color of their hair, they would love to chat with you. So we're just going to kind of go through the list here. So Genentech.
Hey everyone, I hope you had a chance to enjoy sunshine today.
Okay. CSL. I think that they said they weren't able to make it today, but we all love John Self. Griffles. We'll come back to her because she has.
Here.
Oh, okay, you are.
I am. Good afternoon. Just Colleen Frazier with Griffles. I have products for von Willebrand's disease, hemophilia A, as well as hemophilia B.
Awesome. Takeda.
Hi guys, Jane White is here. Takeda. We've got a product for everything. Factor 8, Factor 9, von Willebrand's disease, and inhibitors.
Awesome. Diplomat.
Hi everyone, I'm Jamie Lott. It's good to see all of you, and please do not ask about my hair color because I am now 3 months with no hair appointment. And other than that, we provide products for hemophilia A.
Awesome. And I actually said Diplomat. I think it was just to have it, and then you spoke.
Oh shoot! Oh,
that's okay. But you spoke to Blair's products. I was like, I wonder where this is gonna go. Remember last week, Christine was also working for Takeda still. It's called COVID Brain.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna be quiet.
You're all good. Is Diplomat still on?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, just checking. Hi, everyone. I'm Abby Washington. I'm with Diplomat. We're a specialty pharmacy, so we provide medications, support, all kinds of services for our bleeding disorder community.
Awesome. Thank you. And we heard from Bear. Pfizer.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Eva Felix. We do have products for hemophilia A and B, so please reach out with any questions. Thank you.
Novo Nordisk.
Let me unmute myself. Hi, everyone. This is Danielle. I'm with Novo Nordisk now. We have a whole bunch of products, kind of like Takeda. We have products for hemophilia A and B with and without inhibitors. We have products for factor 13 deficiency, factor 7 deficiency, Lanzmann's thrombocythemia, and acquired hemophilia. So feel free to give me a shout anytime.
Octapharma.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hartman, and we have products for Factor 8 and also VWD and a few rare diseases, which you guys can personally chat with me about at a later time. But other than that, hope everyone's staying safe out there, and thanks for being a part of this.
All right, BioMarin.
Hey, it's Alyssa Riedel with BioMarin.
I don't have a product yet, but I have lots of information about gene therapy research. So feel free to reach out to me.
CVS.
Hi, everyone. This is Kevin Finkel with CVS Specialty Pharmacy. We're have a whole team of specialists to help out the bleeding disorder community and provide all of the products that all these fine companies make. And yeah, I hope you're having a great day.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We are so grateful. So yay, you guys are making this happen. We just wanted to remind you about our awesome Grubhub gift cards because you are sharing your Friday evening with us. We thought we can take dinner off of your plate. And they have been going out about usually before the meeting's over or within 30 minutes, and it's one per household. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us about that. It seems like it's been working well. We wanted to thank Takeda for a number of programs that they have. So they support our advocacy outreach programs and teaching us to learn how to advocate. We're going to do some of that more in depth later on in the year. Our insurance navigation program, which is awesome because that's how we help people navigate their insurance. Backpacks and Bleeders from Blair, which you guys are all familiar with, which we all love. And Ivy Leaders, also by Blair, which is just a huge program for our young adults. And I think, Erica, why don't you go ahead and share about this?
So in the summer, we have different programs planned in the process of planning based on dates and times that you guys gave on the survey last week, in that if you didn't give on the survey last week, you'll give on the survey today to help us solidify the times for our summer programming. And as many of you already know, summer camp has been replaced by this BDFW Summer of Fun Activities. And the first week of June, so next week, we're going to be having meetings for different age groups. And we hope to see you at the meeting for your age group so that we can talk to you about the programs that we're going to have in the summer. For the teens and their parents and the young adults, we're going to be talking about the scholarship program that started this year. We have talked about it a little bit, but of course we had to make a bunch of changes to it so that it was attainable during social distancing. So we're going to be talking about those programs. And on here, you'll see it doesn't have our blood brother age group. That's because they're not going to necessarily have big changes, but we do still have programs planned for the age group. You guys just seem to know what your program is pretty well already. So that's why you don't see that age range on here.
Awesome. And then the post-event survey. This has been so hugely helpful to staff. So please continue to fill it out, put your thoughts on everything. It's just fabulous. Like a bunch of people wanted to learn about surgery and they had no idea that they all wrote they wanted to learn about surgery. So we can get that kind of going for you. So please share as much as you can, because this is really about you guys. It's not about staff. And sometimes we're just guessing and reading the tea leaves. So the more info, the better. And we'll do our very best as we kind of plan out the year. Some of the things you guys have requested require a little bit more thought. And we do try to provide thoughtful programs. So it's not, if you see something not happen right away, it doesn't mean that we didn't hear you. It just might take a little bit more time to create a quality program for that. Okay.
Also, like to add on real quick to that sometimes it can be helpful if you say something and you want to give like an example, that it's better to have a slightly more specific example than a super general one that we don't actually know what you want, so that we can provide an even better program that's that works better for you, especially under priorities. If you're saying that there's something that it would be helpful to get, but you don't tell us what that is, it'll be harder for us to provide it than if we know what that item is that would be helpful to you.
No, that's great. Thank you. Okay. And again, thank you to our sponsors. Okay. And everyone is back. So we were going to take a quick second, but I think that since Amanda's husband is mowing the lawn and we are not sure how long it will be before things break down there. We'll kind of do some of our stuff at the end to be super careful and considerate of her time. Don't worry, like my children are likely to bust in here any moment, even though my husband is home. So let's go ahead and kind of get just started with Amanda, and then we can maybe do some of the stuff that we were going to do afterwards, just to make sure we get her squeezed in.
Thanks. So I may know all of you, but I'm Amanda Blair, so I'm the medical director for the Hemophilia Treatment Center at Seattle Children's. I think we had some ideas of topics to talk about today, things that I know you want to hear about from a pediatric standpoint. And so I'll kind of go through some of those, but feel free to chime in with questions and interrupt. So I'm happy to have it be interactive. I know the first thing on everyone's mind is obviously still the COVID-19 virus and what kind of impact that's having on the pediatric population. I know in the last couple of weeks, there's been much more in the news about children being diagnosed with a multi-system inflammatory disorder, seemingly associated with a recent COVID-19 infection. Unfortunately, I think there's so much we're still trying to learn about those particular cases. I think the big issue still remains that we don't really know how many children have had the infection and are completely, weather it completely fine and end up not having this kind of complication. Because we just haven't been testing all children nationally. It was really interesting. There was early on a good publication about the pediatric experience with the coronavirus from China, and that was overwhelmingly reassuring. So I think this development that's been noted here in the U.S. has been really surprising, particularly with a large cluster of patients who seem to have this inflammatory kind of cardiac event in the weeks after a coronavirus infection. So I know there's a lot of research being done on those particular patients to try to understand if they have particular risk factors. Do they all have a genetic mutation that predisposed to the development of this multi-system disorder afterwards? So, those things are still unknown for us. I know in the news here that there have been 2 or 3 patients at Seattle Children's who have been diagnosed or felt to have this multi-system inflammatory disease after and had COVID-19 antibodies that were positive. Those children seem to not have mostly respiratory issues, but more of heart failure and other organ failure. And so we're in the ICU and not patients that I was directly involved with. I will tell you on our dashboard, they keep track of how many patients we've tested, because Children's is now doing testing for pretty much any patient admitted to the hospital, any patient having anesthesia, any patient having surgery. So there's almost 4,000 children who have been tested at Seattle Children's. And the most recent number was there were 40 patients out of the 4,000 who were positive for COVID-19.
How many was that?
40.
40 out of the 40?
40 out of 4,000.
Wow.
So the number of patients who are actually positive and happen to be found to have it or are tested because they have symptoms is relatively low for the number of tests that we're doing. So I think the prevalence in the community seems to be relatively low in general. So I think, although it is scary to hear about these horrible cases, I feel that the most likely thing is that children tend to fare very well and have very little problems if they do have any symptoms from this infection at all. They've also done about 1,500, I think it was 1,500 to 1,600 Seattle Children's employees have been tested. And about 1% of them ended up being positive, and none of them have been hospitalized most of them were community exposures, so none of them were related to any patient they took care of in the hospital. And the range of symptoms reported by the employees was really wide ranging. So some had respiratory symptoms, some of them just had a headache or a loss of taste or smell. So I think there's still so much that we're learning about this virus, and I'm happy to try to keep you all updated as best I can as we learn more about it. But I think definitely we still know that having a bleeding disorder doesn't necessarily in and of itself impact your immune system and your overall risk for having a more severe case if you did have it. So I think in terms of our approach and how it's affected our clinic, we certainly Seattle Children's was not prepared to do large scale telemedicine care when this all happened. So we had probably all of April where we didn't really see a whole lot of patients unless we had to. And that was really just the sickest patients who really couldn't have their visits delayed. Unfortunately, comprehensive clinic wasn't deemed as urgent. So we had several families who had their comp visits canceled in April because we just didn't have the ability to do clinic. Now, at the beginning of March, so I think March 14th, we had our first comprehensive clinic by telemedicine. So on Zoom, we had kind of a small scale rollout of the process, and it went really, really well. And yesterday, we had a almost normal clinic. We just didn't have physical therapy. But we had, I think, 7 patients yesterday. None of us were, well, I was at the hospital, but everybody else was in different places at their homes. And I think it went pretty well. I think we've kind of learned some things we need to warn families about as we go into it. So we basically, Maya and I each have a meeting room. And so at the appointment time, you're sent a link to join the meeting. You come to the room. We start the visit with you and kind of run through the consent and everything to do the telemedicine care. And then we have basically 20-minute blocks scheduled out for all of the other providers on the team to come into the meeting with us. And then we just kind of hand off who's hosting the meeting with you until the meeting's done. So you still see your provider, you still have your visit with Nurse Barb, you still have your visit with Gail if you need to. We have social worker, we have Julie, and then we also have Katie Bergstrom, who's our genetic counselor. So I think it's gone really well. I haven't heard horrible things about it. There are some families who've had some technical issues, maybe because of poor internet service or poor signal. And in those cases, we do expect that we're going to be able to start bringing patients back for in-person comp visits starting in July. At least that's the plan. But it's probably going to be a hybrid approach where we have certain days every month that we offer virtual comp visits and other days that we offer in-person visits. And it may still, even those in-person visits, it may not be the whole team there, but there may be parts of the team who kind of virtually come in for the visit with you. So it's really kind of a rolling process of how it's going. But I think definitely for the younger kids, it's been really it's been really good for them to not have that clinic environment. I think they tend to be much more relaxed in their own home, and they don't have to necessarily sit there for the whole visit. So for a toddler or a younger kid who wants to go play, that's certainly okay. I mean, it's not going to interfere with my physical exam. If I at least can say I saw them on the screen, that's all I need. So but I think there's been some good discussion amongst the region and the different physical therapists about how do you do a reasonable physical therapy evaluation virtually from their home. And so I think we're all excited that this is a great option for a lot of our families who have transportation issues or childcare issues or just other ways, that it's hard to come into clinic for a 4-hour visit, that if you can block 90 minutes of time at home, we can probably accomplish just as much So it's been great.
I think this would be a great time just to kind of pause and see if anyone has any questions, because that's just a lot of good info.
Should I look on the chat?
On the chat, or if anyone wants to just kind of shout them out as people kind of get those prepped. I have a question for you that actually came up at the BDFW board meeting.
Sure.
And one of the questions was, is there a barrier to access in regards to patients not having access to internet to be able to do the telemed visits? And is there any need to help support that?
Yeah, certainly. I think that we do acknowledge that there are families who are going to have difficulty with good internet access or the technology to do the visits. So I think we're, hopefully our schedulers are incorporating some language when they call families to schedule virtually, that they give them the option to wait until we do an in-person visit. And for the patients that we need to see in person who aren't able to do a telemedicine visit, we are happy to do bridge prescriptions and kind of do what we can. We can always do a telephone visit as well. So I think there's options, but it is disparate. And I think there's so much value in being connected with the BDFW and what you guys have done to try to support the community in these changing times. But I think that there's just certain areas where internet reception is not very good.
No, for sure. I just thought it would be, since it was a conversation that the board had, wondering how that was impacting the community, kind of just talking to and then kind of following up.
So we do know that there's kind of there's a resource divide for I think I see a lot of families who have smartphones, and I think that's most the minimum you would need to be able to do a virtual visit. But I think just feeling comfortable to say, what, my internet is spotty and it's probably not going to hold out for a 90-minute conference call.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see if telemed maybe increases connection to the doctors.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to travel to Seattle, or like when you were saying that, it was making me think about families who don't have to take a day off of work.
Yeah. Or like, in the winter time when nobody wants to come over the pass. I mean, it's hard to plan when you have to drive 4 hours to get to clinic and then spend 3 hours in clinic, and then you don't want to drive home. So then that's another day, or you stay somewhere. So it's, I'm really excited that we're going to be able to and be supported by the hospital in maintaining the ability to provide telemedicine resources to families. So I think it's going to be really great, and hopefully give us more flexibility in taking care of our patients.
Yeah, and just so folks are aware, the BDFW is actually working with our lobby team to make sure that the telemed visits are continued to be paid for by insurance. Right now it's under like an emergency order that it's a parity to pay. Otherwise, Children's wouldn't want Dr. Blair to meet with the patients on a telemedicine visit if they weren't going to get paid for it. But right now the insurance pays it equitably for phone calls. And that's something that we actively work in, just because I think it's really, for bleeding disorders, rare disease, everything, it's really going to enhance that patient's ability to access the care they need if they can do it in person and or telemed, especially with the size of our state. And seeing so many of the beautiful faces on here, I know a lot of you live far away, and it would be awesome to be able to have a telemed visit for clinic and or I need some guidance, right? So awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? If not, Dr. Blair can continue.
Oh, there's a comment about Comcast offering something special. Yeah, I know. So I think, people, I think a lot of the businesses are trying to help support people in the community with all of the Zoom and everything that's happening. So I think just, anybody can share resources to help others out. That's really great.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quick question, Dr. Blair.
Sure.
So we had planned on having Zach's port removed.
Yep.
sooner rather than later, actually before first grade, which is probably not going to happen. Would you suggest hitting pause on that? No.
No. I mean, I think it's I think it's fine. I mean, we have other patients who've had surgery. They started scheduling surgeries again at the beginning of May. So I think as long as we can keep our operating rooms open, then I don't think there's a reason not to do the port removal. It's a much less invasive procedure than when you have it put in. So we don't keep kids overnight after that. We will just send them home and make sure you have a good plan for giving follow-up factor if needed. So, yeah.
Is there any hope on the horizon of having like the Bellevue Clinic be able to do infusions?
Yeah.
You can say no.
I mean, you know, Children's has this grand idea that they're going to have all these regional clinics that are staffed by all of the multiple specialists. But it's hard. I think we have a growing group, and when I started at Children's, I was the third person doing hematology. Now we have 6. So I think that that certainly Children's hopes to expand the regional access to specialty care and to take what they've said, specialists closer to the patient and caring at home rather than making them drive to the middle of Seattle. I think the big thing with the Bellevue Clinic is that they don't have the pharmacy, or that they don't have because all of the hospital factor is stored actually in the inpatient pharmacy. So that's been a lot of the issue when we've brought up factor infusions and options to use the Bellevue Clinic.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. It's a great question. All right. Well, I know one of the other topics was to talk about how to keep kids safe in the summertime. So I think, I kind of asked Nurse Barb for some of the tips that she likes to bring up with families, just to make sure I had a good representation. I think one of the big things is we want all of our kids to have a childhood, and we want them to be kids, and we want them to be active, because we know that's really important for their joint health and to build strong muscles. But I know I imagine it's very anxiety provoking for families when they have their kids kind of set free. And, I imagine that most kids are kind of pent up and ready to bust out and have some freedom and sunshine and be outside, having been at home on quarantine for so long. So I think I'm happy to kind of field any major concerns or questions. I think, the major safety things we would talk about with the parents of a child who has a bleeding disorder are very similar to, what your general pediatrician should talk with you about. We always try to stress the importance of wearing a medical alert bracelet or some kind of medical alert around, necklace or on the car seat if they're younger. I think particularly with all of the lakes that people go swimming in, it's important that even kids who are felt to be strong swimmers, that they have a life jacket when they're around lakes, and just to try to avoid drownings and water injuries. With any wheels underneath them, like scooters or bicycles, it's important to make sure they have bike helmets or just a helmet to provide protection for them. I think to just kind of feel reassured that, most minor injuries and falls can really just be treated with ice and rest and supportive care. The things that we worry about mostly with big traumatic injuries is whether they had a head injury or a head bump. And so it's hard to provide guidance about every potential scenario, because the story is different for every patient every time. So I would just reinforce the resource you have in calling the hematology clinic during the day, or the bleeding disorder nurse on call at night or on the weekends. And the things that change our view of risk for internal injury, or how bad the head injury could be, would be, like how far did they fall? Certainly a kid who just trips over something and falls is much less likely to have a severe injury than somebody who falls 6 feet, 8 feet, they fell off the kitchen counter, that sort of thing. We want to know if they cried right away, or if they had a loss of consciousness. Those things are important to note. A lot of kids will kind of be stunned and just kind of shocked and then start crying, but that's not necessarily that they have loss of consciousness. That's just kind of a startle that happens. We want to know what they hit. Did they fall onto concrete? Did they fall onto carpet? Did they fall onto foam? All of those things kind of really influence the mechanism of the injury and how significant it could be. Certainly with any head injury, if you have outward swelling or bleeding, or if they start vomiting or complain of headache, or are not alert like they should be, those are emergency signs that there might be internal bleeding, and that they should really be seen in the emergency room for evaluation. I know that Seattle Children's ER has really adopted some more stringent guidelines about what are the physical exam cues that you should look for in terms of deciding if somebody needs a head scan or not. For us, it's always really important to call the bleeding disorder team so that we can call the ER ahead of time, especially if you're not going to Children's, but even if you do go to Children's, because we want them to give treatment as soon as you arrive, and then decide whether or not your child needs a head CT. So because we want the bleeding to get treated as soon as possible, and not delayed to find out if the head CT shows a hematoma or not. So those things are really important for us to know. What else? Barb had some good tips about making sure you've maybe always got some popsicles on hand or some ice packs. Those are always great just as a first aid to have. A lot of toddlers will have mouth injuries, and having a cold popsicle to suck on can really help minimize bleeding until you can start some Amicar or just see what happened. So just making sure you've got your first aid kit prepared and with you. Make sure if you, going back to the bike helmets, it's important to know that there's a lot of programs around the area that offer low cost or free bike helmets. I know Seattle Children's partners with some different organizations around the area to do low cost life jackets too as well. So if that's something that you're in need of, that you let us know. We can help connect you with resources for helmets and life jackets, just to make sure kids stay safe during the summertime. Do you guys have any specific questions about summertime safety, sunscreen? Make sure you have sunscreen. No? All right. Oh, okay. There's some chat about skateboarding. I get asked a lot by parents about trampolines. I usually tell families to Google the American Academy of Pediatrics and trampolines to just see what the consensus guidelines are about trampolines in children. So I know a lot of people feel comfortable with some of the modified trampolines, like the spring-free trampolines, but in the end, I think I would just caution, particularly for kids who have a bleeding disorder, that trampolines can cause really significant injuries. And I've seen some really bad bleeds and broken bones from trampolines. So, yeah. Are there any questions that came up? Oh, yeah. Medical alert bracelets. So we have the program. Did it start last summer, Stephanie? The medical alert bracelet program? You're muted.
Luckily, I speak as much with my hands as I do.
Like I know you're something.
I'm sure they were like, oh, we're around her enough. We know what she said. So yeah, it started more like, around last year, probably a little earlier, but kind of got off and going in the summer. So we do, if you need an ID medical bracelet, part of the requirement is that the form has been looked at by your medical provider. So we make sure that the information is correct. A lot of that has to do with the allergies, if you are on certain products and certain allergies need to be put on there. All of the medical ID bracelets we did purchase the insurance plan on all of them. And so if they broke naturally, then we can work with the company and you and talk to you about that. Unless Claire and Erica, do you have any more comments or thoughts or experience on that?
Well, the warranty also includes like if the writing fades and it's not readable anymore, or if it breaks. And if you include your email with the order purchase, then we will email you when we order it so that you get the tracking information and the warranty information in that email. Otherwise, you'll need to contact us to get the warranty information because we won't have your email in that situation.
Yeah, because the BDFW, we worked with the medical providers and the board and came up with it. We'll provide bracelets every 2 years unless there's like a major change. And if how you get bracelets is that it's to start with children's because the form needs to be approved by the medical team, and then it comes to us, and then we start ordering them.
Or Mary Bridge and Sacred Heart.
Or Mary Bridge. Oh yes, any of the hospitals. Rebecca.
And the WASCBD, right? The adult program?
Yes, everyone is eligible. Yeah. The adult program really hasn't been using it as much, and that's okay too. But yes, so this has been a pretty successful program, and it's a great way for us to connect with families right away and to provide that support service. So if you need one, let us know.
Yeah, it's been really great resource to offer families this. I think I heard previously from a lot of families who weren't sure what to put on it or what phone number or what diagnosis. And so this has really helped streamline that process. And the options are great in terms of what the kids get to pick for choices. So, yeah.
Yeah, we did. Staff spent a lot of time making sure that there was a variety of choices, hoping that it would make them feel like they wanted to wear it, no matter who you are and what your age is. If you don't feel like it's something that you're comfortable with, you're not going to wear it. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, the last thing we wanted to talk about today was to focus on advocacy and how do we, or how would you as parents help promote self-advocacy in your children? So, there's a lot of things you can do as a parent to help make sure your child is involved and to help enable them and educate them as they get older. So, having your child involved in their treatments can be really helpful. And starting at a really young age too. I mean, we have some patients who, at 2 or 3 are able to kind of help gather supplies, and they've learned what they need for their infusions, and they, so can really participate and start to learn all the different pieces that they need and what, just to be part of it rather than just have it be something that they have done to them. So, they can open alcohol wipes and can get all of the packages and set up a space, over time. And so that then they are just, more involved in the process. Using a stuffed animal or a lovey that they can, maybe practice their pokes on. Not that you're going to give them a needle, but just to, have to be able to do some role playing with them. So, we have dolls in the hospital that have ports. And so before kids have their port put in, we try to at least expose them to what it looks like, or that they, they get a stuffed animal that has something similar to what they have, so that it's relatable for them and it makes it more normal. But they can pretend to give Amicar, or, play with syringes and give their loveys medicine. And, so really to just normalize the process of taking medicine on a regular basis, or taking medicine when they get hurt too, if that's, the case for your child. As kids get older, so certainly, into the school age where they're starting to go to camp, when coronavirus leaves the world, I'm involving them in more of the higher level parts of their care. So, maybe taking inventory and keeping track of how much factor do you have on hand? Are there any supplies that we need to order this month when we order your factor? So having them start to take part in that process of keeping track, keeping logs. How do you, have them as a teenager start making the calls to the pharmacy, maybe with you by their side, that encouraging them to decide, oh, hey, like I have 2 weeks left of factor. I need to make sure my refill is pending. I'm going to call the pharmacy and I'm going to make sure I order all the other supplies that I need after I've gone through our supplies at home. And so I think, over time, you can really help incorporate them into more of their care and allow them to have more ownership of it themselves. I think one of the big things for a lot of kids is, that having a bleeding disorder makes them feel different than children who don't, certainly because they may have activity limitations and things that they can't do, or that maybe they have to get a poke and an infusion before they go do something. But I think, working with your child on creative ways to approach their friends about their diagnosis. It's important to know, just across the whole world of pediatrics, about 20% of kids have an underlying medical condition, whether it's asthma, whether it's food allergies. So, just because they see their other friends not having a bleeding disorder doesn't mean that those kids don't have some other kind of medical condition or something that they take medicine for. So working with your child about how do you talk to your friends about your diagnosis, and how do you normalize it for them, or help them understand why they have so many bruises compared to everybody else. So I think there's a lot of roles to practice that for the kids, so that they feel empowered about their diagnosis and their care. I made some notes.
Well, and to add to that, Amanda, we're going to, because you guys have asked about self-advocacy, so that's why we're touching on this too, is that we are developing for summer some ways for kids to learn about how to self-advocate. Thought that Amanda could start that conversation, because I know sometimes it's about me letting go as a parent so that the child can advocate. But what she was just talking about with the kids, we're going to provide some of that for you guys this summer.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing too. As the children get older, when they come to clinic to see us, we certainly will spend more time trying to talk to them instead of, we'll ask them, how has your year been? What kind of bleeds have you had? How did you treat that bleed? And obviously we look to you as the parent for confirmation or to rebuke what they say. So certainly it goes both ways. But it's important for us to see what their thought process is around their disorder and how it's impacted their life over the past year. And so, as they get older, we start to incorporate, as part of our transition program, more focus on educating them about their disease. But it goes really way beyond that in terms of how do you recognize a bleed? How do you remember that you have a bleeding disorder when you fall off your bike? And, maybe forget to tell your parents that you had an injury. So working with them to try to remember that injuries usually will result in some kind of bleed, and that needs to be brought up to their parents and brought up to you so that you can talk about treatment and whether you need to do anything besides just ice and rest. I think we kind of joke with the kids, but as they become teenagers, we really will give them a quiz in clinic. So we'll ask them to tell us what their diagnosis is, what's their severity, what's their medicine, how often do they take it, when do they take it. And so, being able to over time and annually kind of reinforce with them, it helps us see where we need to focus our education and helps guide what we talk about with them during their clinic visits. Those teenage years are really important because sometimes teenagers don't want to listen to what their parents have to say. So it is helpful to hear it from their doctor or maybe their nurse. And so that's one of the benefits of, maybe in younger years, patients who have mild hemophilia or maybe von Willebrand's, we may have seen every 2 years, but in the teenage years, I really like to make it annual so that we can really capitalize on that time when they're developing and becoming more independent, and we can help them ensure that they have the knowledge they need to be independent and safe in terms of care for their bleeding disorder. Additionally, I think that one of the major benefits of us adding a pediatric social worker in our clinic is that she's instituted mental health screening for all of our teenage patients. So we know that children who have a chronic medical condition are at higher risk of having depression and anxiety. And so just having a simple 2-question screening when they come for their clinic visits is really helpful to make sure that we're also addressing that aspect of having a bleeding disorder, that we're not just focused on the medical, but also thinking about the psychosocial aspects of a bleeding disorder and how it affects the whole family. Yep. Does anyone have any questions? Any comments or tips? I know we have some well-seasoned families in the community who have, done a really great job of empowering their children.
Dr. Blair, what age does she do that survey, the depression sort of screen?
So we start at 12 right now, but we've been in discussion about whether or not we should take it down to age 10. But right now it starts at 12.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, sure. You guys are quiet tonight.
I know, aren't they? That's good though.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because nothing's coming up on the chat, and if people don't have
long week, I feel you.
I know, right? I think everyone was
Yeah.
saying at the beginning of this, like starting a new month of the unknown, right? It's like, oh, it's a little draining.
I know. And the questions about like, am I going to go to school next year?
Right.
Well,
in some form. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Blair.
Yeah, no problem.
I know, it's been so awesome just to get to have the community to connect and see you and feel a little bit more connected to their care, in this time where everyone feels so separated.
No, it is really, I think there's a lot of benefits to Zoom. or to having the ability to connect virtually that in the beginning felt a little awkward and isolating, but I think it's had a lot of benefits to our community.
Yeah, and hopefully we can kind of continue these moments because it's a lot easier to get information out when we can just grab the experts for an hour or 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Than 3 hours or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So if we don't have any other questions, and if people want to hang out, I know it's sunny out, so people may have a little bit of antsiness maybe than they often do. So Claire and Erica, if you guys want to put the survey in the chat if people want to stay on and enjoy each other's company, kind of following up, we thought we could kind of go around the Zoom and chat, if you have a really great self-care tip or something humorous or that you just want to share, or also too how you're what are your tips for juggling all this melee, and just thought it would be a fun way for us to kind of engage and share on those different tips, or just how people are doing. So, and if someone doesn't volunteer, I can call a name.
I'll volunteer. This is Sarah. Sorry. Sorry, I had to take my camera off. The crazies in the house are a little, crazy.
We love your crazies.
Well, good thing they're cute. Unfortunately, I don't have any good tips. It's a bad day for that.
Sarah, I would disagree with you.
So, I'm just going to be quite honest. It's just one of those days where I'm ready to sell my children. But I'm pretty sure nobody wants them. But so I'll take tips from other people, but I figured, I'll chime in. Wesley.
I think Wesley might have been the 2 or 3 year old who would go around and get all of his supplies ready for his infusions.
Yes,
so
yes.
I wouldn't say that you don't have any tips.
Yes, he did do that. Now, obviously, he wants to attach all the syringes, which I'm not a fan of. The various steps.
You probably learned sterile technique pretty well.
It's a work in progress. I haven't quite gotten there yet, but we'll work on it.
Okay.
Sorry, like I said, it's a similar situation around here. The husband was supposed to watch them.
Okay, I have a funny story that goes with that. My job, I'm a K-5 reading interventionist. I work with kids all over the spectrum for reading, and we spend the first 35 minutes, if I can get that much out of my son, doing pre-K activities every day, usually involved around reading, because that's my specialty. And this morning he looked at me and said, "Mom, I just don't think you know how to teach kids to read, so it's okay, let's not do this anymore." And I was like, "Okay, fine, you can go watch TV."
Great self-advocacy he learned.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually had my daughter tell me many times, "You're not a teacher, you can't help me with my math homework." It's like, it's adding and subtracting. I'm pretty sure I can handle that.
I am a teacher and I clearly can't do it either. So.
Yeah.
How old are your daughters?
My daughters?
Yeah, Dr. Blair.
6, and my oldest will be 10 next week.
Okay. All right. Gotta love this stuff. You went through medical school, but you can't do math, obviously.
Nope, I can only do doctor stuff. That's
stick to the easy things.
Yeah, totally.
Anyone else have any good tips or things they just want to get off their chest and vent and share?
Well, I was going to say, I'll say something if nobody else will. I am blessed to be able to have my grandkids live like across the street from me. So literally I walk out my front door, go across the street, and there's their house. So we are quarantining together because I never go anywhere without my daughter pretty much. So I have grandma school. So it's talking about school. I have grandma school every morning because I've got a kindergartner and a first-year preschooler, both granddaughters. They are so excited to come to grandma school that now my 2-year-old grandson has to come with them for the beginning so we can do the Alpha Friends song all together, and having them here. We even do show and tell on Fridays.
That's amazing.
They're sisters. They see the same stuff, and they are so excited to come out to grandma's school. So that makes my day.
That is so awesome that you do that for your family.
It's
so
well, my daughter's in graduate school, so.
Oh yeah.
It's a change of scenery. My kids would love to go somewhere to go to school, even if it's not in the house. So that's awesome that you can do that. My tip is make a schedule and make it visual. We have this I don't know if you can see it from this distance, but a visual schedule where she has to physically move the stickers from one area to another to get it all.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I'm also making her do twice as much as everybody else in her first grade class.
So I'm interested if anybody's found anything. So my son is 5, and there's some times where myself and my husband are working at home and just can't engage with him. But I can't get him hooked on any of the 5,000 free trial periods for the educational sites that all he wants to do is kids YouTube, which is super wonderful.
How much slime have you made?
What's that?
How much slime have you made?
We're not going to talk about that. We're not talking about Play-Doh or kinetic sand or any of the 5,000 things that I've ordered on Amazon that.
Yeah. Did you try Khan Academy Kids?
I know, I love Khan Academy.
Yeah.
No, Khan Academy Kids.
Yeah, KHAN.
Mm-hmm.
And it's free right now.
Yeah.
It's
really good. They've got everything from preschool up to high school and go beyond.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And it's really adaptive, so it will kind of start wherever you set it in terms of development, and then it kind of responds and will take things up.
Yeah.
Cool, because I can't get ABC Mouse is not working. The Cosmic Kid, it's
no. But I really like the Khan Academy Kids.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
my son used it in school because he doubled up a year on math.
Yeah.
So it's highly It's
awesome. Cool.
And they do parenting webinars too. They'll do parenting webinars about how do you homeschool in a pandemic.
I don't want that. I just want survival. I don't want to homeschool. I don't want to learn how to do this.
Right.
I just want to survive to September.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, but yes, thank you.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you've Legoed it. See if he likes Legos at 5.
Oh, we've Legoed, we've Lincoln Logged, we've Magic Kit things. Yes.
Have you given in to Nerf guns?
We don't do guns. But I'd rent a pony if I thought it would help.
They're blasters. Yeah. It's because you can set up empty water bottles and then set them up and do it that. You can even do it with math. So what's the answer? You can do it with letters. You can build targets. Yeah. I know, we were anti-gun too, and I have an arsenal.
Well, I'm all for video games. We haven't had the video game, but if there was a video game that was not first-person shooter that I thought he'd get into.
But you could try. I don't know how young. I could ask my boys how young Fortnite is.
I think there's a Fortnite thing.
It all depends on the parent. But my kids are older.
I'm open to anything right now.
Minecraft is a good one for
Yeah,
I was going to say Minecraft, and there's some really cool educational Minecraft stuff. People already set up huge experiments inside of Minecraft, and the kid just goes and
really
ticks the thing, and then Rube Goldberg's the whole thing. Or
the last video game I played was Tetris, so I'm so.
Yeah.
Hope.org is another site, and it does some really young stuff as well in visual form to do puzzles and.
What is it?
Yeah. Code.org.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then somebody wrote, which is so true, and I love those, is Nerf also has bows.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, archery bows?
Yes. Yeah, you can get an archery set, but it's an archery bow.
Yeah.
It's this way, and it looks like a bow. I think I have one in the garage. Can demonstrate.
Yep.
we're an archery family, and now that we've moved into closer proximity, there is no like range for Hannah to be able to be on her like compound bow. So a Nerf bow had to happen. Yeah.
Wow.
And then, yeah, see, there we go.
Oh yeah, Lindsay's got one.
And we got
Cool.
another one.
Nice. Oh, crossbow. Very nice.
Do you use those for parenting or are those just for the kids?
A little of both.
Yeah.
Little of both. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm. You
Has
just give
anyone
in.
ever tried those? There's like this bike thing where it's a bike and you can actually ride it, but you're learning on a screen. That could be a maybe, but I've never.
Oh, that's a
Like a
VTech.
Peloton?
I was like, Peloton?
It's a VTech product.
On, yes.
Yeah. I know for grown-ups there's like Zwift and stuff. So
What's do you have a Switch by chance? Or no?
No, but I feel like I could get one.
Probably not at this time.
not right now.
Oh, or not.
They've been out for months.
Yeah, they're kind of out for a while, but if you do eventually get one, the Ring Fit Adventure, my 3-year-old is loving it, and it's really active and engaging, and they're fighting a demon, but it's just kind of this exercise program. It's very active and safe. And we set it down to level 1, and my 3-year-old loves it, my 7-year-old loves it, and Brian and I,
Cool.
that's how we've been staying active, is doing Ring Fit.
Cool.
But good luck.
We might. I don't know. There's lots of things to put video games in, but I don't know what they are.
Yeah, you can't get any of them. I'm sorry. Not even possible.
All right.
I know that the Switch Lite is still available in some places, but it means that you can't hook it up to your TV. It's just portable. It's got a slightly smaller screen, but it is available in some
work.
places.
Yeah.
He's a small person.
So I'm waiting until the regular Switch comes back in stock.
Yeah.
Cool.
So many options.
The Etch-a-Sketch didn't get any mileage. Nothing.
Puzzles? No puzzles?
No, he's super into like gymnastics, Barbie, like you get to pick their clothes and then their dance routine, and then they battle.
Hey,
and then he likes Roblox, which kind of freaked me out because then there was a chat thing I had to shut off. He's into that. So Barbie's in Roblox.
It's a good mix.
Yeah.
You might see if there are any like digital exercise classes that, are available. I know that some dance studios have been doing online classes as well as various, martial arts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because that might at least get some of the energy out.
Yeah.
Right?
Just like
Yeah.
animals, I have been loving, Hannah hasn't even gotten time for this. I've been loving, like, we're going to feed the otters today. And you feel like you're 2 inches from the otters because the Seattle Aquarium dude has a GoPro on their face.
What are we doing?
Like, the zoos and stuff are doing these, like, daily feedings, and they're incredible. So, like, almost every zoo all over the world is like, zookeeper with a GoPro, hey, we're gonna go snuggle a koala today. Like, let's look at the koala's feet. And then we're gonna feed an otter. And oh, this otter likes my GoPro. He's like, on my GoPro. You're like, what is this?
I'm apparently the worst parent ever.
I love it. Again, Hannah hasn't even gotten a chance to do any of these things. And I'm like, I'm watching the otters today while I'm on this other meeting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And tomorrow is the next window of opportunity for the SpaceX launch. Which is out of Florida, sending up 2 astronauts to the International Space Station. Tomorrow at like
they're launching?
2:30 Eastern is the launch window. So that will be essentially they're going up to dock just to prove that yes, we can go all the way up there in this brand new rocket, docking autonomously and then heading back down pretty much. So the next launch window is tomorrow, and then Sunday is the launch window after that. So that might be something people's kids are interested in, because rockets in space
are cool.
So yeah,
I'm interested.
yeah. So they did kind of, we laughingly called it a wet run on Twitter because it got rained out a few days ago. But they got to, like, the astronauts were suiting up in the same room as Apollo 7, and it was neat to be able to get to see some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So
And it's a really neat bonding time for parents and kids. Her granddad helped work on the Apollo missions. And so she's grown up hearing bits and pieces about things. We've gone to the Museum of Flight, and he showed her where the thing folds up on the lunar rover, which was something that nobody else, even the docent didn't know that. And so she's been interested in that from the time she was tiny. And
That's cool.
Stories, but it's so different and so amazing to sit there and realize that we are going back to space.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So-
really a moment in history, and a fun thing to share with your kids.
yeah, because this is kind of the first start of the Artemis project, which is essentially humanity returning to the moon. And so we're starting to do these tests of the SpaceX rockets and see, how it works and make sure that it's going good so that we can get humans to the moon and then eventually Mars. So I know a lot of kids are kind of super into space that way, so that might be fun for somebody. I don't know.
I also saw, which is always good, about building, Miss Krebs, building with cardboard boxes.
Oh, yeah.
That's always a good one. Just put them out, see what happens.
Make a fort.
Mhm.
Probably almost as fun as playing with scissors and learning how to cut up real money.
Oh, no.
As long as you paste it back together and just do hundreds.
No, I just said that's your holiday fund, so bye-bye vacation next year.
If you have a cat or a
Money.
dog that's small enough, you can also use those cardboard boxes to make a cardboard box fort for the animal. There have been some cats with wonderful palaces that I've seen online that's just Amazon boxes and bored people.
One thing that we've done, because we're trying to limit screen time because it's been overwhelming, is putting like little dinosaurs and other junk you find around the kids' toy rooms and stuff inside of a balloon and freezing it so it's like a big chunk of ice. And then I gave him a dropper and put him outside and watched him from the back window. I don't think I've ever seen my overly rambunctious child sit for so long in my entire life. He was so excited to.
That's brilliant.
That's
And
amazing. That is amazing. I love that idea.
That's better than car keys in the ice at a party.
Right. And my 1-year-old, who is the 5-year-old, I can entertain him with an iPad. I'm just trying not to so much. My 1-year-old is like something else. And so if someone could tell me how to entertain her where she's not going to break a bone, that would be fantastic. She's really, her favorite things right now are climbing onto the counter and anything else that she can by like using the drawer or the holes on the drawers and things like that. So it's fun.
The other random thing that I just got exposed to was, I don't know if anybody watches Last Week Tonight, but John Oliver did this thing at the end of his last week, and he was talking about that we all need sports, that sports aren't going to really come back anytime soon and all this stuff, but competitive marble racing is a thing.
It's hilarious, and
I
it's totally
gotta
worth a
tell
watch.
you, it was way more amazing than I could ever imagine, and I am not a sports person,
and you get super invested.
Holy cow. I think kids will like this because there's Legos, because
Yes.
the whole, like the course is all set up, Legos around it and everything, and all the spectators are in these little marble seats and all these little Lego. Oh my gosh. And some of it's outside in the sand, and some of it's on these really cool indoor tracks, and they have all these cameras going through, so you feel like you're in Indy. I mean, come on. And John Oliver, because they're basically filming from a blank wall in his apartment right now, they're not spending half their money. So they donated like $120,000 to this thing.
They funded the whole year.
Right. They funded the whole season for it, and said that the winner of each race gets to donate $5,000 to their local food bank. And then at the end of the season, like the champion, they'll donate $20,000. So $100,000 is going to local food banks based on competitive marble racing. And I'm blown away by this. I think everybody needs to check out competitive marble racing on YouTube because I was floored.
Yeah, Amanda is right. You'll have like a favorite marble, and all of a sudden you're like, go little blue marble, go! And it's really tense.
And they all have names, and they've given them these really cool like names that you just want to like latch onto.
Yes, one was called Tarantula. A little red marble was called Tarantula. What? I think some kids would like some screen time with competitive marbles, and you want to go down that YouTube track, I don't really care, because I hope that you become an engineer or a NASCAR mechanic.
I'm going to check out some competitive marbling. This is amazing. These are such good ideas. I love hearing what everyone's doing.
I'm going to sign off, guys. Go see what my children are doing.
And I hope the lawn looks great.
The lawn's going to be amazing. And we have a new kitten, too. So, yeah.
That's fun.
We don't get to see the new kitten?
Huh?
We don't get to see it?
She's still hiding under the couch right now.
Oh.
So, it's a bit of an adjustment.
Fair.
I'm going to scoot as well and go freeze some stuff in balloons. Thanks, Dr. Blair.
It's nice to see you guys. Have a good
Bye,
week.
guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
And you guys, we're all free to sit and chat and enjoy each other's company as much as possible.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Your mom's like, no, I need to see adults. How's the baby?
Yeah.
Good. Already back up to birth weight plus some.
He's
Oh, how are you too?
You want to say hi?
Hi. Bye.
Bye.
We're gonna go get dinner.